Hey, I'm Doug, and on behalf of everyone at Revv, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the 5th video in the D20 sound video series. Initially, this was going to be the last video, but as we looked at the scope of what this video was going to be, we opted to split it apart into two very important sections. In the next video, we're going to build some mega switching rigs. But before we wanted to do that, we felt it was really important, first of all, to show you some of the functionality you can have with a smaller rig, and also hip you to some of the amazing things you can do with MIDI utilizing the D20. So let's get to it. At the top there, you basically heard this Strat into the GT1000 Core. And one of the interesting things I was doing was inside the 2 Notes Torpedo Remote software there, I set up a Cathedral Reverb. Now, one of the neat things about the D20 that you may not have necessarily known is that in addition to having the 6-way virtual cabinet switch on the face of the amp, you can also access via MIDI up to 128 separate presets that you can basically create using the 2 Notes Torpedo Remote software and push to the amp. And I'm actually going to, in this next demo, show you exactly what that sounds like. Now, if you take a look, the Cathedral Lights are going to go out when I switch from patch 31 to patch 30, and they're going to come back on when I switch back to 31. I'm going to give you a chance to hear exactly what that sounds like. Before we add another layer of complexity that I think you're going to want to know about, I want to briefly recap what we did there. Patch 30 was associated with patch 5 on the D20, which had no reverb. Patch 31 was associated with patch 6 on the D20, which did have reverb. And the cool thing about that is I purposely placed them at the last 2 locations on the virtual cabinet rotary dial there, such that in case I wanted to get to those sounds from the face of the amps, I could do that. What we're going to do now is a slightly smarter way to approach this, and we're going to do that utilizing the Morningstar MC6. So the thing is I can toggle back and forth between patch 5 and patch 6 over here. And again, you can see patch 5, hang on a second, reload there, no verb. Patch 6, lots of reverb, without actually having to tell this guy to change patches, because really what I want is I want patch 30, which had the right amount of delay. When I switched up to patch 31, I actually pulled back the delay so you could really hear the verb. I really want this patch, and I want to be able to toggle between lots of reverb or no reverb without changing these patches. And that's why using something like the Morningstar MC6 is so valuable, because essentially you're talking to each one of these devices. Now, before we move on, I want to give you one other little tiny little piece of MIDI theology. All right, basically for each one of these devices, it's ideal to assign it in the order of how the MIDI flows a MIDI number. That is to say, a MIDI channel number. So this one's on MIDI channel 1, MIDI channel 2, MIDI channel 3. You can think of that like your dad came home with 3 cell phones. He keeps the first one. Your mom gets the second one, and you get the third one. You do not want your mom picking up the phone when somebody dials your number. I'm glad I put that as the third phone. The point being is you can kind of think of these guys as 555-1111, 555-2222, and 555-3333. Now, one small caveat. Those guys, unlike these other devices here, which you can set the MIDI number to, those are always on MIDI channel 1. So you just want to be really conscious of not potentially setting another device unless you want to MIDI channel 1. So again, just to briefly recap, this guy was saying, hey, lots of reverb, no reverb by switching between patch 6 and patch 5 on the D20s without changing this guy over here so I could have just the right blend of delay without reverb or with reverb when I wanted it. On behalf of everyone at Revv, I want to thank you for checking out this video. And I look forward to seeing you next week when we use the D20 as the epicenter of a switching rig. Can't wait. But until then, thanks so much for watching. Cheers.